In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to use the opt-in design settings that come with Bloom, which can be used to customize the appearance of the opt-in forms you create to better match your website and your brand. And you can do anything from changing the colors to the font to the orientation of elements within the opt-in box, such as the image orientation, the form, and the form field orientation, and so on. So the first thing you're going to want to do to access these design settings is head over to your WordPress dashboard, look for the Bloom tab, and then click the opt-in forms link. And this is going to bring you to your opt-in forms management page, where you can both create new opt-in forms as well as manage the opt-in forms you've created in the past. And for any opt-in form you've created in the past, you can click this settings link, and that'll bring you to the design tab, and you can adjust the design settings for those opt-ins. But in this tutorial, I'm just going to start from the beginning and create a new opt-in form. So I'm going to click the opt-in form, new opt-in form button, and this is going to give me a list of all the different opt-in types that I can create. And what we've done with the Bloom design settings is actually consolidated the settings and made them the same across all the different opt-in types. So no matter what opt-in type you're creating, you're going to see the same design settings. And this makes it really easy to understand the design settings, and also it allows us to duplicate opt-in types from one type to another. So if we were to design a pop-up and then duplicate that pop-up into a fly-in, it's going to work seamlessly. Those design settings will be translated seamlessly, and your fly-in is going to have the same design as your pop-up, which is great. So for the purpose of this tutorial, it doesn't matter which type I create, because those design settings are all going to be the same. And so I'm just going to create a below the post opt-in form. And the first step in any opt-in form creation process is the setup step, where you can name your opt-in name your opt-in and also select your list. So I'm going to name it below the post and select Aweber as my list, and then move on to the design settings. So when you click next, you see next design your opt-in button, and this is going to bring you to the design settings. And when you're creating a new form, the first step of the design process looks a little different. What we do is we actually let you pick a starting point. So instead of giving you a blank canvas and making you make all these decisions on your own every time, what we've done is we've taken those design settings and made a bunch of decisions ourselves, and created a bunch of pre-made templates out of those decisions. So what you see here is a bunch of starting points, a bunch of pre-made templates, and you can get an idea of what these templates are by looking at the thumbnail here. And so just browse this list and pick a design that looks good to you. And then once you select that design, you'll be able to customize all the different elements. So just think of this as a starting point. And for many people, I mean, these pre-made templates are going to look great. You really don't have to customize them if you don't want to. But if you need extra control, you can customize them. And that's going to be the purpose of this tutorial. I'm going to be showing you how to customize each of these pre-made templates. And so as you can see on this list of templates, the first couple rows are kind of what we think of as the most basic templates. This is kind of just your light template and your dark template. And as you look at the different rows, you can see kind of there's different formats, even though they're all kind of the same color. There's other decisions being made here. You might have the image on the left versus the image on the top. You might have the form on the bottom versus form on the right. And you might have a special edge, or you might have a border style. So as you browse here, you can kind of look at these thumbnails and kind of see the differences here. You might have an orange website, and therefore you want an orange pop-up. And so you come down here to the orange row, and then you might then make your second decision. I want the form on the bottom, or maybe I want the form on the right. And then maybe make your third decision. Well, I want the form on the right, but I also want a nice edge style. Give me that little carrot edge, looks nice. So yeah, that's kind of how we've laid out these pre-made templates. And so just browse through these and select a template that you like. I'm going to select this red one and then move on to the next step, which is the real purpose of this tutorial, which are the design settings, the customization settings for that opt-in form. So select your pre-made template and then move on to the Customize tab. And these are the Bloom design settings. You can adjust your opt-in title and the message. There's various image settings. There's various styling settings for the opt-in box as a whole, such as the background color and the header and body fonts. Then there's also customization settings for the form itself. You can choose where the form appears within the box. You can adjust the text that appears within each form field. And then there's form styling options such as the colors. There's different edge styles. And you can also adjust the messages that appear within the form. You can add footer text such as like a disclaimer about your privacy policy, or maybe some reassurance that you're not going to spam your visitors. You can adjust the success message, which appears after someone successfully subscribes to your list. And you can even add custom CSS. So if these settings aren't enough for you, we have a box here where you can really get specific if you're CSS savvy and customize whatever you want. So let's start from the beginning here. Now, when you're designing your form, you can at any time click the preview button to get a preview of what your design looks like. So here's what our form looks like. It's that pre-made template we selected with the red background and the form on the bottom, the image on the top with this gray background color for the form and this green-blue button. And so we can adjust any of these settings. The first up is the opt-in title. So you can see right now it just says subscribe to our newsletter. But if we want to get more specific, maybe something a little more catching, maybe we have a special offer for this list, we can change that. So I'll change it to subscribe to our newsletter to get access to our free ebook. And you can adjust the message as well. So if we preview this, you can see that my title's been changed. And we can move on. Next up are the image settings, and the image settings allow you to, one, choose where your image appears within the form. So we have different image orientation settings. You can specify the image itself, so you can upload your own image. Now, for these pre-made templates, we've created some really beautiful images that you can use, so feel free to use those, but if you want to add your own, you can. And you can also adjust the load-in animation. So when this form appears, the first time it appears, that image is going to animate in and kind of catch your visitor's eye, and you can choose the style of animation. And finally, you can choose to hide the image on mobile if you like. So if this form, it's getting a little big, maybe you have like a very big description, a very big opt-in title, and that in combination with the image just makes a really tall form, and you want to make sure that on mobile that form is no bigger than the screen itself. Then you can choose to hide the image on mobile, and it'll give you some more room. Okay, so let's go over each of these image settings. The first up is the image orientation. And as you saw in that preview right now, the image is being placed above the text, but you can also place it below, to the right, or to the left of the text. So I'm just going to change it to below text. And like I said, anytime you can click this preview button to get a preview of your design, of any of your changes. So now the image has been moved below, and we can move it to the left or right as well. And so one thing I'd like to touch on here is that the type of image you upload might look better with different orientations. So, and you can have control over that image itself. And this image happens to be a very long image. So the width of the image is much more than the height of the image, giving it what we call a landscape orientation. And in general, these landscape images look better when they're placed above and below the text because they have more room to expand horizontally. And so if we were to change this image to right of text, you can see that in doing so, there's much less room for the image to expand horizontally. And because it's a very small image vertically, it gets kind of, the image, gets reduced in size proportionally, and therefore the image itself looks much smaller. So in these cases, in general, an image being placed to the right or left of the text will look better if it's a portrait style image, which means that either, usually the height of the image is actually more than the width of the image. So as you can see, this area is kind of like is more of a rectangle shape, and therefore a rectangular image or even a square image, circular image would look better here. So I'm just going to give you an example that I'm going to upload a new image that's a different orientation. You can see that it's going to look much better here. So I'm going to choose this kind of more square image. You can preview that, and as you can see, the image just fits a lot better here because it's not that landscape style image. So that's one tip for you. Landscape images, generally place them above and below the text. Portrait or square images, place them left or right of the text. It's going to look a lot better. Next up is the load-in animation, so I can change that to we have various animations here that you can select. by default, it just slides up and fades in. But if you want to get a little more fancy, you can try something else like this flip animation, which looks kind of cool. And you can also hide on mobile, which I already explained. I don't need to preview that. So next up is our opt-in styling. And here you can adjust the background color of the opt-in, the header font, text color, corner style, and you can even add a border to the total opt-in box. So first up is the background color, and this is a good one to touch on first because if you notice this image that I just uploaded, it's kind of this red-orange color, and I'm using this red background color that actually happens to be this almost the same exact value as the red in the image, and it just doesn't look very good. In fact, they kind of blend together, and doesn't look that nice. So this is a perfect opportunity for me to customize the background color of the opt-in form to better match my image, and so that's what I'm going to do. In fact, I'm just going to change it to white, because I think that'll look nice. Now, when you change the background color of your opt-in form, you're also going to want to adjust the text color if you've made a drastic change. So if you notice the text color of my opt-in form is white, if I change the background color to white, the text isn't going to show up. So if I preview this, well, now the image shows up great, but the text doesn't show up because it's white. So I'm actually going to have to change that text color, and we have an option for that here. If you look over here, text color, right now it's set to light. I'm just going to change it to dark so that shows up. So there's another tip for you. You want to adjust that text color based on your background color. So you always, whenever you adjust your background color, you may want to adjust the text color as well. Next up is the corner style, and you can choose between two corner styles, which are squared and rounded. And this is kind of like a common theme in most websites. You know, they might have a square cornered look or a rounded corner look. So depending on what you have going on your website, you might want to adjust this to match. So if we choose rounded corners, you're going to notice these corners become rounded. So it's really up to you. I'm going to change back to square. And next up are our borders. So you can choose to add a border to your opt-in box. You can have that border appear at on any corner of the box. So you can have it appear on every corner, all four corners. You can have it appear just on the top, just on the bottom, top and bottom, right and left. So I'm just going to do a full border as an example. And when you select the full border, when you select any border, you're going to get some new options that appear here, which are the border styles and also the border color. And so for the first thing you're going to want to do is adjust your border color. So right now I have a white background and a gray form color, and my image is kind of a red color. So I'm just going to choose a red border for now and see how that looks. And then you're going to want to choose your border style. So there's 5 different styles, which is we have this kind of solid, just kind of standard border. We have a dashed border, a double border, an inlay border, and then the 5th border style is this kind of this classic mail or letter style, this striped look, which is pretty common. It's kind of a fun thing to add to your opt-in form. So I'm going to preview this red border. As you can see, adds that red border there. And like I said, you can either have the full border, if you just want it on one side, maybe I just want it on the top, I can choose top border like that. That actually looks a lot better. And in this case, based on what this looks like, I'm thinking I want to have a more cohesive style. So I'm actually going to change this to the same color as my button. I'm going to go down to my button. I see that it's this gray or it's green-blue color, and I'm going to change that. And what you can do in these colors, you don't always have to select it. You can actually just type in the hexadecimal value and to any color you like. So right now I just kind of copied and pasted that hex color. And I'm going to preview it. So now I have this nice cohesive look. It's a green-blue border, green-blue button. Looks great with just having the border on the top. So, and then you can adjust, you can change any of these border styles. So like I said, there's also this nice kind of like striped letter look, which is a fun style to add. You can see I really like that. In fact, this red and red look great with the green. I'm going to stick with that style. All right, so that's all the opt-in style settings. Next up is the form setup. Now you can choose your form orientation, which is you can have the form, which is that dark gray part with the email, input and the submit button. You can have that either be on the bottom, on the right, or the left. So right now it's on the bottom, but if I change it to the right, you can see what that looks like. It gets placed on the right here. Or the left. And so when you do this, it's one thing to realize is that in placing the border on the left or right, you've reduced the amount of space you have horizontally, so everything kind of gets squished, it gets pulled in a little bit more, gets squished in a little bit more. So when you choose this form orientation, it's best to do it when you have a short description and short title, as I have here. For example, if this title was twice as long, it would actually end up making this opt-in form pretty tall and might look a little funny with the image being squished on the top there. So again, this is a design decision that you should make, and you should make it that decision based on, you know, the type of content you're dealing with. So I'm going to put that form back on the bottom. Next up is you can choose to display a name field. So what we've done with the opt-in fields is we've kind of have two basic choices. You can collect the email, or you can collect the name and the email of the person signing up. And if you want to get more advanced and collect more stuff, then you can use the custom HTML list type instead of using these automatic forms. And if you want to learn more about that, be sure to look at our account tutorial. So I go over the different account types, and one of those account types is actually to not use an account type and use a custom HTML form. So if you want to learn more about that, head over to the account tutorial. But from now, I'm just going to go over these form setup settings. And so if I choose display name, what's going to happen is instead of just having email and subscribe, it's going to have name and email and subscribe. So you end up having more fields there. And then you can adjust the text that appears here. This is the placeholder text. So if you want to change the language maybe, you can do that, or just for whatever reason you don't want to say name, you want to say something else like input your name or input your email, you can do that here. Next up is the subscribe button text. You can change the text here. Right now it just says subscribe with an exclamation point, but if you want to do something else like, I don't know, join today or something like that, you can adjust that there. And next up is the button color, the button text color. So this is the text color that appears within the button. And much like we can adjust the opt-in text color to light and dark, you can adjust the button color to light and dark as well. You should change this and when considering your button color itself. So if the button color is dark, you can put your text color to light so that text color shows up. And if the button is light, you want to make the text color dark so that the text shows up. So right now our button color is this kind of dark green blue, and so the light text color actually shows up great. So if this was dark, it might not look as good. And so if we go over to our button and let's say we change this to white and preview that, the button's going to become white, and our text has just disappeared because the text color is also set to white. Well, in this case, much like when we changed our background color to white, we're going to want to change our text color to dark so that it shows up. So the next choice, or the next section here, is the form styling. And here you can adjust the form so that the form is this whole area right here. It has this gray background color, it has the form input fields, and the button, the subscribe button. And so you can, the first choice is the form field orientation, and you can have these form fields either be inline in a single row as they are now, or you can have them stacked on top of each other. So if I choose stacked, you're going to see that the button and the input fields become stacked on top of each other. So it's really just a choice you can make stylistically, but also a choice you can make based on maybe where this form is appearing. So let's say this is a fly-in form, and it's sliding up from the bottom right of your page. If you choose to have inline form fields, it's going to make that fly-in much bigger because it has to fit those forms in a single row. Whereas if those forms were stacked on top of each other, the form can be much smaller. So this is one setting that can adjust the actual, it ends up adjusting the size of the opt-in form. So that's another thing to consider when choosing your form field orientation. Next up is the corner style. So you can choose rounded or squared corners. So if I change to squared, then you're going to notice these input fields in the button become squared instead of rounded. Next is the form text color. So you can adjust the text color to light and dark. So if I choose light, it's going to adjust this to a light text, and it's going to make the input field dark so that the text shows up. And next is the form background color. So right now I have this dark gray, but if I wanted to change that, so let's think I have this green blue button color. Actually, no, I have the white button color now. So I have this white button color, and I have a red orange image. So maybe I want to change my background color to be similar to that red orange style. So I'm going to go over to this red. I'm going to make kind of a red orange out of it and see how that looks. And you can see this is going to change the background color here. So now I have a red that matches my image, and it shows up great with the white button. It looks really nice. So I'm going to stick with that color. I've already gone over the button color. And so next up is the form edge style. And what this does is this is purely a stylistic choice, and it changes the style of the edge that separates the form from your text and image. So we have this, red area, which is the form, and then we have this white area up here, this white background color, which is like the main opt-in box. And so I'm gonna look at the preview again. So this edge that separates those two areas, we can kind of add some cool styles to that. So right now it's just a plain edge, but we have some different stylistic choices you can make. So for example, if we go over this zigzag edge, you're gonna know it's gonna add that zigzag separation. So this is like a way to add some personality to your form. So if you have a more kind of, fun and personal kind of brand going on, this zigzag edge is pretty cool. If you want to keep it clean, then either this, no edge, standard edge, or maybe this caret edge, which is pretty classic. It's a little arrow that points down, brings the user's eye down to the sign up button. Then we have a curved edge, as you can see here. And we have this kind of triangle edge. So yeah, you can kind of choose between those and figure out which one looks best with your website. Next up is the footer text. So you can add text, and the text will simply appear below the email and join button here. And like I said, you can add something like maybe a link to your privacy policy, or just some text like assuring your visitors that you won't spam them or share their information. A lot of times people that give you their information, they want to know that you're not going to then go share it to a bunch of people. So if you link to your privacy policy and assure them, hey, we don't share your email address, that might reassure them that signing up with you is a good idea. Might increase your conversion rates. Next up is the success message. This appears after someone subscribes. So once they subscribe, they're going to get a little green check mark and a little message that says, you've successfully subscribed. But if you want to change that to a different language or just a different message, you can type that in here. And finally, the custom CSS box where you can add your own CSS. I'm not going to go over that now, but if you do happen to be CSS savvy, quite simply input the CSS here and it's going to be applied to the box. Yeah, and that concludes the design settings tutorial. So yeah, Bloom comes with a lot of design settings. You can really, customize everything. So I encourage you to play with these settings and really create a form that looks great with your website.